This podcast is brought to you by Living Swell Studios. When you want to record your next hit, broadcast your next live stream, or just need a quiet space to edit your videos, Living Swell Studios can accommodate all your needs. Located in New Orleans, they're equipped with a rehearsal hall, print shop, photography space, and more. Living Swell is your one-stop shop to facilitating your vision. Let them fulfill your music and video dreams. Hey y'all, this is the Professor Drew Bayham coming at you with another episode of Drew's Putting It Out There. And my special guest today is one who I consider my sister. We've been working on music for the latter part of 20 years now. Mm-hmm. I had the privilege of producing her first 2 albums. Whoop, whoop. And yeah, all that good stuff, yeah. She was a season 8 finalist of The Voice. You know, she has a much, what's the word? Accoladed, if that's even a word. That's even a word, list, the resume of accomplishments and achievements. And some we might, hopefully we can dive into, deep dive into some of the stuff that she's done. And none other than my sister, by Divine 9. If I was in the Fred, I would have been a Sigma. So, but I have a family of Zeta, and so that's why she's we're connected in more ways than one. Mm-hmm. So I want y'all to give a special round of applause to Miss Tonya Boyd Cannon.
Woo!
And on the boards and my cohort.
Yo,
he dubs himself the Al Heyman of podcasts. That's what we gonna do, and that's what I'm gonna call him too.
Yes, indeed.
He's gonna come through. So, round of applause for Mr. Roast Beef Jenkins himself, Mr. Irv Darby.
Yes, sir.
Woo! Irv the Nerve, the intern.
Yes, indeed. Irv the intern.
Yes. All right, let's just get into it because I have a couple of takes, and we're gonna get to it. So actually, the first take I want to get into is actually, I have another take. I was watching, I had the privilege of watching the Tiger Woods documentary on HBO. Mm-hmm. And looking at his life, because I don't think people understand the severity or just how, just the severity of how he became
famous.
How he became so famous. The story was that Earl Woods, his dad, when he was born, he was about 10 months old. Mm-hmm. And so his dad was trying to get in some golf swings, getting golf, because he was an avid golfer. So he would go and practice in the garage. So he had his, swing net, mm-hmm. the whole nine. So he would put Tiger in a high chair, and strap him down in a high chair so he can get some golf swings in. He said he knew something was going to be great about him from looking at him, because he would stop and look and literally watch his swing and watch him swing. He said it got so serious and it got so bad that when Mama would come, Mama would try and feed him, and he wouldn't leave. He didn't want to eat as long as Daddy was swinging the club.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And so, he would literally, his mama would actually feed him in between Daddy swinging. So by the time he was 2 years old, he already had a bona fide swing.
Right. Just watching.
So he already had a bona fide swing, and so from 10 months old, Daddy had been grooming him and literally taking no prisoners on him to be the greatest, because his whole goal was, I want my son.
Right.
The one that I love and the one that they were best friends. They were literally best friends. And for that reason alone, because Daddy wanted to make sure that he was going to be great and he was going to be the best.
Right.
No, for that happening, by that happening, he didn't have a life. He didn't have like a social life, pretty much at all. They interviewed his first girlfriend, right? In high school, interviewed his first girlfriend. Right after, I think she said right after graduation, she said she got a letter from him saying, "I can't talk to you anymore. Please don't talk to me. Please don't I have to work on my craft."
So, do you think, just hearing all of that, do you think that was something that he initiated versus his dad?
No, I mean, I know because, well, here's the reality. Reality is he's a teenager. So you're going to engage, you're going to want to engage in teenage things, no matter what you're doing and how great you're doing on it. You know what I'm saying? I think what it really was that, they were so strict and they were so, what's the word? Like they were just so dead set on him becoming great. And Dad was like, I don't care if it was golf or it was bowling or it was
you were going to be the greatest.
You were going to be the greatest. You were going to set the tone. And so, and which actually brought me back to when we all sat down and watched The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan one. Mm-hmm. And they got ghosts in here.
Let the spirits dwell. Let them dwell.
I leave them alone. Leave me alone. I leave you alone.
Hey guys, recognize them. Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste.
Nah, I'ma leave.
Yeah. So the thing about it is, and like I'm watching The Last Dance, and I'm watching Michael Jordan literally pretty much go through the same process, being cut from his high school basketball team. Mm-hmm. His dad never letting up on him when he was young.
So let me just say this. Yeah. I want to jump in because I'm listening, but I'm listening from a parent's perspective. I'm also listening from a young, avid athlete, vocalist, musician, whatever it may be. And I think back to my childhood, how I asked my mom recently, I said, why didn't you and Dad put me in dance? Because I love dance. I love to dance. And she said, your daddy said you were going to be a vocalist and musician in the church. Mm-hmm. So they, basically didn't let me do something that I aspire to do, still to this day. And I was like, wow, that's really hard because they made a decision for me without giving me a chance to make my own.
Yeah.
To this day, I'm grateful for some of the things that they instilled. However, I won't do that to my kids. I'm giving my kids an opportunity to decide which road they want to take. However, just know either road, the journey is not going to be easy, right? But then I also watch my son who loves to get into engineering, my daughter who loves to cook. Mm-hmm. And so my vision for them is I can foster that, like you're going to be a cook. You're going to be this. But at the end of the day, you have to decide what it is you want to do.
Right.
I've seen my son engulfed in his engineering to 3 and 4 in the morning, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Get up and go to class at 7 a.m. After he finished class, he goes to band practice at 3, leave band practice, go to work, come home from work, take a shower, eat dinner, right back on his board. Mm-hmm. Son, get you some rest. Mm-hmm. Son, get you some rest.
Right.
All I can encourage him to do is to stay healthy, right? Because I know this is what he want to do. But I'm also not going to say, you got to do this. Right. No distractions, no talking to this person, no this. Because there has to be some kind of sense of normalcy in that and balance. Right. And to this day, I say, son, what you getting your girlfriend for Valentine's? I don't have no girlfriend. I ain't got time for that drama, mama. I'm staying, I'm sticking to, what I want to do. Right. I could be like, buy your girlfriend something. I want to keep my money. You know what I'm saying? Like, I tell my daughter, your boyfriend buying you something? Yeah, but mama, I told him I really don't care for nothing. I can buy myself something. Like, the independence is there. Right. So now it's horning in on what it is that they want to do without being so strict, drill sergeant. And so just thinking back
but you know why that's right. You know why it is, right? Mm-hmm. Because your daughter had a father who was there, and so any man that comes behind daddy is going to feel, like there's a standard that's there.
Right? Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And they had you know, your children have had a situation where, like, well, mine, you know, the privilege of having both parents at home, you know, loving you, teaching you, the whole nine. So I get that.
Yeah.
You know, but I think what I was trying to get to the point is that I don't think some people understand the sacrifice that has to be made in order for you to reach that level of greatness.
Oh yeah.
Right.
You know, I really do believe that people just do not understand.
That's like what Kanye, he said for a few summers he was always making beats. He was always working on music. So it's like, I think about myself some as a kid hanging with friends, and I'm thinking like, dang, for 3 summers he was making beats. So he didn't his social life went like, forget being social, I'm on a mission with my craft.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So yeah, I mean, that's just and for me, I'm like, okay, it didn't make sense for me until I watched that documentary, because you know, I now understand the concept of the tiger mom, the tiger dad. You know, like the person, what do they call them, hover parents, or they call them umbrella parents or something like that.
No, it's I know what you're talking about, the hovering parents, and then you had the something like a lawnmower, like they broke it down. But I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So you know, my thing is, and that was the objective, that was the perspective that I got to, is like, you know, as a child growing up myself, you know, I picked up the horn early. So, you know, I practiced because my parents instilled in me, like, in order to get to some place, you got to have enough discipline to get there.
Right.
You know, but at the same time, I was like, I didn't have that discipline.
Yeah.
I didn't have that discipline.
Right.
I was still able to make the mistakes that I needed to make, which inevitably, like, was what created the crash for Tiger. You know, because Tiger just never had been in that situation where it's like you're learning how to deal with women, period.
Right.
You know, or just learning how to deal with being a parent, or just being like that. You know, those things that life skills that we all kind of develop.
It seemed like he didn't know how to turn golf off.
Right. You can turn golf off. You couldn't turn off. You know, so I just thought that was a real interesting, like, documentary, and I think everybody should watch it. It's a 2-part documentary, but like, I think you should watch it because it gives us an insight into the real extreme of sacrifice.
But when you think about it, you look at individuals like Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, and we can say Lil Wayne. You think that being that great puts you in a space to where it's like you have a lot of demons you haven't took the time to address?
Right. I believe that, yeah. You don't have the time to address it.
Right, because I'm putting myself in the mind state of an individual who's so successful at their craft that when it's time for me to address some things, I ain't got time to address it because I still have to do this. I have to do this. Like, I wake up, I gotta do this. I go to sleep, rest. I deal with it. I deal with everything in my sleep. When I wake up, I'm gonna deal with it.
So I think, like, that's where the balance has to take place, right?
Right.
I was talking to a girlfriend of mine this morning. She called me, and she said, what you doing? You still in bed? I said, no. I said, I'm just taking my time getting up, right? I had already said my prayers. I'd already meditated, talked to my husband, and I'm going to get up slowly. In the past, I would get up so abrupt, like just move. And throughout my day, there would be a bunch of moments that were uneasy, easy mood switch. Like, it was just out of order.
Right.
And so I think, you know, to the extent of these artists, because we look at sports, you know, as a category of agility, you know, strength conditioning, strength training, body conditioning. We don't look at the arts like that, right?
Right.
And it's still a sport because you have to be conditioned, you have to have strength training, you have to put in all of that same work, right? And so if you look at it, athletes are artists because they still have to, and just like artists, we're athletes, we're one and the same. I feel that there's not enough of mental support in order to create that balance. Because while I think, you know, these artists that you mentioned, Wayne is great, Jordan is great, you know, Kobe was great, like these people were great. at the end of the day, when you go home, how do you download?
Right.
How do you release?
How do you decompress?
How do you decompress? Like, what is that method? And there's not enough of that, which creates, if you start as a kid, you become an adult with the same issues. And I can speak for that because of being a preacher's kid. You know, those demons and those different childhood trauma, things that we weren't able to address then. Now is the time you're dealing with it as an adult. And so I had to learn for me to find that kind of balance, well, not kind, that balance that would allow me to be able to continue to be productive while still able to receive what I needed in order to do what I do.
Right.
So I just think like, you know, they could be great, but there has to be some kind of balance because I hate to use these great artists, but Robin Williams, Donny Hathaway, Phyllis Hyman, great artists, Kate Spade, phenomenal. But where was the balance? Where was the support? You know, and so I think that's something that needs to be addressed more within the different arenas, you know, and also spoken about openly.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, instead of hiding, I have a therapist. Why hide it?
Right. You have to be it had to be some form of transparency because you never know who you might help, who's watching you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And you may pass up that opportunity that could afford you something even greater.
Right.
Because that's the thing, like, within this world, we all want to hear the truth until it is a part associated with us.
Right.
Tell them the truth. Tell it. Preach the truth.
Right.
And then when it comes to us, don't tell me the truth.
Right.
Just tell me honest. I don't want you to be honest with me. I want you to be truthful to me.
Right.
Because when people say truth hurts, it doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt. You just have to be ready for it.
Actually, I'm glad you pointed that out because it brought me into a subject that I know pertains. You've been in an environment, you know, of that, and you're a preacher's kid, going into singing secular music, and we all know, and anybody who's grew up in just a black church, whether it's AME, Baptist, even Catholic for that matter, the duality of of God and the doctrine and secular, whether it's music, relationships, whatever the subject matter, we've always had this duality. And I would have thought at this point in time in 2021, we would have been making a turn to at least, more than past acceptance. But for me, as I still see it, it's like the church still deals with those same issues because they're so, for lack of a better word, indoctrinated into, God says this. And if I can, and then I'm one of those people who's like, well, I've offered you the reason why that I believe that you're wrong, through the doctrine, and it's still, I feel like I still bump my head against the wall when it comes to the church coming around to being accepting of these things or doing those type of things. And I was like, you can offer a much more in-depth perception than I can because that's just me. So,
well, the thing is, what I had to learn, it started with self.
Of course,
you have to start with yourself. And people are often quick to talk about the Bible, and my first response is always 2 Timothy 2:15, which says, "Study to show thyself approved." I forgot the scripture. I'm thinking of it, but it talks about basically studying for yourself, knowing for yourself, right? And then we talk about ye shall know the truth, and the truth will make you free.
Right.
So if we're going to be in this space of these four walls, this worship center, this cathedral, the first thing we have to have is truth.
Right.
We have to be truthful, not honest.
Right.
We have to be truthful
Yeah.
about what's going on, and giving words of encouragement to the people, not to shun anyone, not to blast anyone, not to talk down to anyone, but to encourage them to study the word for themselves, right? In doing that, you have to be true to who you are. So whatever your life or lifestyle is, you have to be true to that and be a living example of that. Because my dad and I would talk about it all the time. We would go back and forth. And I told him, I said, Dad, I left the church for a while. I said, because I had a bunch of trauma in the church. I went through a lot of things to where it caused me to commit suicide a couple of times. That's how daunting and hurtful it was. Man, look, I had to find myself, and it took probably in my mid-30s that I was able to realize who I was and what God was calling me to do. And that meant me leaving those four walls and that surrounding for me to journey and go where God was taking me. I had to learn that God is everywhere, therefore I can be everywhere. I can dwell everywhere. I can be in Italy performing and God is already there with me. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to be in the church because we are the church. Therefore, if we are the church, we should be able to be that light and example for others to follow, see or inspired by. I don't know where the church is now today, because what I don't do is I'm not in a religious, I guess, lifestyle. I'm in a relationship lifestyle. Okay. So that means I can.
Well, I was going to ask you to explain that.
So religion would mean you. Okay, so when we think of religion, we think it's a practice. Whether you're a Muslim, whether you're Buddhist, whether you're Methodist, whether you're Catholic, it's a practice. You live by that doctrine. That's your lifestyle. You follow that. Relationship means that I know God, I love God, I celebrate, I'm grateful to God. I can go to your temple, your Buddhist temple, and sit in fellowship and not be, frowned upon because I choose to be a Catholic or I choose to be Methodist. So I'm not frowned upon because that's where I choose to worship. Right. So if I choose to go sit in the grass and worship the sun, I still have a relationship. Right. I'm not shunned upon because that's what I choose to do. And so I had to learn that for me. To each his own.
But can you say that took you to? Well, for me, it took for me to get to that position because I traveled the world, and when I traveled the world, I realized, oh, okay, so is this person going to hell because they chose to go Namyo Reiki Hill, or I tell you this, and I tell everybody who I pretty much talk to about. I got a chance to go to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, about 4 years ago. And we got there late. So I'm still up from the jet lag. So I'm up at 5 a.m.
And you can hear him singing.
And that morning prayers over the loudspeaker. And I was like, this is one of the most beautiful melodies that I've ever heard in my entire life. You can't tell me that that's not God.
Peaceful. No judgment.
But when we talk to Sister Johnson over at Tabernacle Baptist Church, that is of the devil. It's like, I realized that, I realized in your doctrine, the devil, the devil was a musician. Right. But you can't, that's not.
It's all, the thing is this, I love how people, and for me, again, I had to learn. I love how people are so quick to judge and shun and tell us this and tell us that. And my first response is 2 Timothy 2:15. Then I'll come back and say, you should know the truth. Right. I'll come back at it because if we're supposed to be giving and loving, why are we judging? Why are we saying what's heaven, what's hell? Like there has to be some kind of light switch that comes on and say, you know what? Who am I to judge? Because, that same sister, whoever, you got 6 baby daddies. Right. And you ain't even told your children who their actual father is, but you're saying, I'm going to go to hell because I say Nam-myoho Renge-kyo.
Yeah.
Nah,
Yeah.
We have to stop. And that's why I remove myself from religion.
Right.
Because when it comes to that, again, it's, you have to do this. You have to do that. You have to follow.
The doctrine says.
Yeah, I don't do that. What God says. When God say move, I move. When God says, bless this person with a gift, I bless that person. When God shows me this, then I follow that. So I follow the Son.
Right. But you know who hit me to that?
Who?
John Cannon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And he had to learn it, especially because he went through seminary.
Yeah, yeah.
And a lot of things he went through. Because my dad and I, we talk about it now to this day. And he's so impressed. There are things like we was talking about the sage burning, the Palo Santos, crystals, and all of this.
Right.
Stones and all of that. People like, stones are this. Don't believe in stones. I said, but wait. Isn't it the same stone that was rolled in front of Jesus when Jesus died in the tomb? You put him in a tomb, that stone. Then you roll the stone in front of him. And then when you move the stone away, Jesus wasn't there.
Right.
So aren't those stones?
Touché.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Look, you talk about my frankincense and myrrh, but wasn't frankincense and myrrh brought the baby Jesus?
Right.
Yeah.
You talk about don't burn sage, but we talk about all of this is in the Bible.
Right.
Right.
So who are you to now take this book that you wanted us to ingest and live by to now contextualize what works and what does not? No, because I'm enlightened.
Right.
Right.
Because if you look at 666,
Yeah.
we talk about that. Isn't that electrons, protons, and neutrons to make up the...
They don't hear you though.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so if we're gonna talk about numbers, let's really go deep with numbers. Like, so it's the thing is you have to learn it for yourself. See, when you're enlightened, when you are enlightened,
They can't manipulate you.
Not at all.
And they will
Not at
shun
all.
you because you can't be manipulated.
exactly.
And he brought about a question that started my journey. We were 19, 20 years old, something like that.
Yeah,
And-
y'all been rolling since middle school.
And yeah, we've been rolling since middle school. Yeah. In case y'all don't know, John Cannon is
My
one of
boo,
good
my
friends.
babe, my
yeah,
em.
and
My hubby.
right. And he one day he was just like, "Say, bro, I got a question. If I've been born, since I was born, I've been taught to worship a goat. Am I going to hell?" Shit.
I asked somebody something similar like that a while back. A friend of mine I used to work with, me and him was having our the debates on religion and Christianity. And I asked him that. He told me flat out, yeah. I'm like, who are you to say that?
Who are you to say?
The book says it. I'm
Okay,
like,
the book. Who wrote the book?
And how many versions of that book has been
thank
written?
you. It's been what's the word? It's been edited out so many years.
Yeah.
What?
Centuries.
Because I can read you some
versions.
books right now that's not even in the King James or the New
Right.
Standard or the American Standard. Like, no, because there are women books in the Bible,
Right.
that we don't talk about.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, let's talk about those books.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's deep.
I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because we can literally be here till,
Me either.
for 4
I don't
hours.
either.
Right.
All right, so let's move into
The show is brought to you by. Okay,
Yeah,
now
yeah.
go ahead. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
don't worry about
We ain't gonna put it out there yet. This
Don't
show is
let
brought to you by
Flash-
Sweet Assassin, Night Boy, All Day 504. Get your Mardi Gras
Bop, bop, bop.
gear, get your t-shirts,
All that.
get all of your good stuff you need for your next event. Sweet Assassin 9
Yes,
on IG.
indeed.
Realtors, do you need some special aerial photography or video footage? Or maybe you need some stock footage of the city for your presentation? Or maybe a beautiful shot of a landmark just to hang on your wall? Well, time for you to check out DM NOLA Shots. They are a drone photography and videography company established in New Orleans who specialize in capturing aerial 4K video and photo. Check out the website at www.dmnolashotsllc.com or follow us on social media at DM NOLA Shots on Instagram and Facebook. DM NOLA Shots.
All right, we're back. And I wanted to touch on a different subject, kind of go there. And I know, Tonya, your career has been engulfed in the experiences that you had going to HBCU.
Whoop whoop.
You know, I was a one and done at Dillard. It was an interesting experience for me, first of all.
Yeah.
Because there were many issues that I believe we've all kind of dealt with in the music industry that kind of played itself out in our HBCUs.
Okay.
In one is I wanted to get to is colorism, or as we talked about in our prelim, like hueism, shadeism.
Okay.
And how people perceive who you're supposed to be as a result of your color, your shade.
Okay.
Your shade, your body type, your sometimes we don't want to acknowledge it, even though it's it's right there in our face, as to the rejection that we face, some of the rejection that we face, some of the stereotyping that has happened as a result of just looking at who we are, and us not necessarily fitting the vision that's in their head as to who we're supposed to be. And the reason why I was saying that regarding that to HBCUs is that we've all had the stereotypical we have all had the stereotype as to what fraternity to join, or whether you're going to be in the band, or you're on the football team, or you're a jock, or those type of things. And I've come to the conclusion that it's one of those things. It's the very stereotype that to me actually kills, is what's killing the success of the HBCUs, because I believe they can be a lot more successful in the education of the students, but more importantly, the the experience.
Okay.
The experience, the black experience, so to speak.
Okay.
Because the reason why we went to HBCUs was because in the early 90s, the late 80s, it was the golden era, or the Renaissance. It was the Renaissance era of the HBCU. With it being on TV, and people being expressive about being black, being proud of being black, and going to a black school, and those type of things. And I kind of parallel that the decline, so to speak, of that with just the stereotype of what people perceive or what they believe that we should be.
Well, I think there's been like a major shift in what and who we should be as black people coming from an HBCU. There's been there's been an amazing paradigm shift within, like you said, the colorism, because if it was still based on what it was, I feel in the past, we would have a lot of us still biased and divided, where you don't see that. And if, I feel that with the colorisms, and I know we chatted on this, like I don't feel I've really ever experienced it, and if I have, I wasn't really like knowledgeable of that happening, because I didn't give it attention, or I just didn't allow that to be something. I still to this day doesn't allow it, because we as black people, our hues are so, we have black, we have brown, we have caramel, if you start talking about flavors, it's so delicious, and I'm like, that's how good we are. We're just so amazing at what we do and who we are, that sometimes we don't realize that we can also be a hurt to who we are.
Right.
And so within the HBCU world, there has been a lot of first blacks who have done this and first blacks who have done that, and I'm talking about within the last 2 decades, which is admirable, which is proud, which is now we have the first black Asian female in the White House who's a member of the D9. Celebrating that. Right. I saw a lot of us coming together to celebrate her. With no holds bars. I don't care what fraternity, sorority you're a part of, because even when you get into fraternity and sororities, there was colorisms, present that I feel are not there anymore, because you have a bunch of sorority members who look like this and whose color is this, whose hair length is this. It doesn't matter anymore. Okay. Like, I feel like that's been erased, not as much, but there has been change, which is great. I feel that no matter what HBCU you went to, you're still acknowledged to be part of that historical black college or university, which is a great thing. If we go deeper, the deeper side of it would be bringing in the organization that we consider our mother and father organization for D9 to be established. But it's and that's a whole nother chapter. But I feel when it comes to celebrating Tougaloo Eagle Queen, I'm proud of my HBCU, but I'm also proud of the experience at Dillard University. I'm not going to forget, that's where I crossed. Right. That's why I became a member of the Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, fall 1999. Let's go. But I'm just saying, like, it's those moments and those experiences that has given me the astuteness to say I'm a proud HBCU graduate. I'm a proud, right now, currently HBCU soon to be mastered graduate from Southern University of New Orleans. Like, I'm proud to say that I am who I am. Now, that part of it contributes to me being who I am as Tonya Boyd Cannon. Yes. So it becomes something that I'm humbled, grateful, and bold about.
Yeah, good. Now, I want to discuss something with you, because you are a singer. You sing really well.
Thank you.
Otherwise we wouldn't be working together. Bop. But I have this thing. I've always had this theory, and it's based in, a singer's complex, a singer's form, a singer's point of view. And I call this the Mary J. complex. The Mary J. complex, of course, we all kind of understand and know. I'm talking about Mary J. Blige. And the music that she has put forth out there, the subject matter has always pretty much been, women being empowered from something that was some type of adversarial, resistance, so to speak, or being hurt as a result of, being vulnerable, so to speak, or something of that nature. And the reason why I call it the Mary J. complex is just that I think she represents the innate feeling of women in general. At some point in your life, you have a masochistic outlook. So, and what I mean by that is that, for people that don't know, what masochism is the S is the M, and S and M. Sadism, masochism. Basically, there is not a feeling that that you feel like you're not necessarily whole, or something is not complete until you feel as if someone or something is being, some type of pain is being inflicted upon you, whether it's physical, mental, even spiritual for that matter, as in, this didn't go right for me. I believe that God is punishing me, but I don't know why he's punishing me. But, you don't have any type of testimony without a test. It's kind of like the idea. It's like, which I believe you don't have a testimony without a test. But, we don't all have the same testimony, whereas that we've been inflicted upon, or, it's just kind of like the what's the word? It's like that threshold where it's just that we all understand it as pain or some type of demeaning or some type of thing of that nature. And so I think it's like a artist like Mary J. Blige, I think that connects with women. I think that's the reason why her music connects, because it plays right into that masochism, because for the most part, it's there, but it's almost in some parts of your life, it's almost fabricated, because you are like, you didn't have to endure that type of pain.
Right.
You don't have to do this. You do have the choice to not endure this pain.
So, so to kind of give you a little pushback on that, if you are constantly used to receiving that pain, and that's considered your norm, you don't know how to get out of that. That becomes Stockham's. Mm-hmm. That's something where as long as you know that this is going to happen, mm-hmm. and it's going to give me this, I'm going to stay here, mm-hmm. Without knowing that, sweetie, that's not healthy. That's not safe. Because the thing is, you call it Mary J, whereas I'll call it, I'm just going to say, Trey Songz push, complex, because it's almost like a Usher complex, because it's the same thing. I think it's a little biased to just call it Mary J when you have men who also are in that same category. Because the reason I'm saying I wouldn't say Mary J, because being a former victim of domestic abuse, whether it was physical, emotional, whatever it was, my mindset was, as long as I know this guy is going to come home, he can hit me, he can do whatever, but I got a man.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it becomes a mental thing. It becomes part of your makeup. You have fabricated in your mind that this is good, this is where I'm going to be, and I'm okay. As long as nobody out there have to know, I'm good. Because if I leave this, now I got to leave my good house. I got to leave the money that he's giving me. I got to leave this. I got to leave that. What's going to happen to my children? So it's a whole big thing that has to, entire process that has to happen in order for you to get away from that.
Right.
And so how many artists out there that has that same perspective? And that's why I say I don't want to call it, wouldn't call it Mary J, because it seems a bit biased just for women when you have men who also allow those same things to happen, and they were, and I wish I had like, what I'm saying, like, it's the same thing, but it's coming from a man, so it's that whole perspective of the M side of it. Because I love both of them, the S and the M. I think it's a beautiful thing.
I think that was the core of what I'm saying. It's kind of like, in order to be a masochist, you have to have a sadist.
Oh, of course.
Right.
So, what or whom is the sadist? And that's the reason why I call it the Mary J complex. It's not a thing of I'm just.
Yeah, right. No. Yeah. I know you're not, but I just know that there are women who will be quick to respond, and that's why I say I want to point it out, because they're the Mary J's and they're the Trey Songz complex. Right. So just kind of to give it a balance, so it could be a unheated conversation. Right. You know what I'm saying? Because I know you do. I know you do. That's that M side of you. Yeah, heat. But I think like the sadist side of it would be, for them, it's the sadist side would be putting it out there, and the M side would be sitting back watching how it comes back to you. Because one is to give and one is to receive.
Right.
So it's like, I'm gonna put this out there, and I'm gonna see what what the response is gonna be, because it's like, yes, that's it. That's the response, and that's why so many men, people in general relate to her, because she knows how to use the S in order for the M to be comfortable, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's an interesting perspective. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ain't gonna sway me, but
well, I mean, that's the whole thing. I don't want it to sway you, but I do want you to kind of look at it and sit back, because I feel like through this writing process as an artist, we're not really given a pass on how our process goes, right? The art of writing, it should be like some type of curriculum, art of writing. Right. And within that whole process, that writer's block process that takes place. Like, what do you do while you're in it? How do you get out of it?
Right.
So that's another process, right? Then when you're finished writing, it's like, oh, how did you feel once it was done?
Yeah.
Here goes another process. So I think like throughout that M side of it, the S while writing and going through it is such a pleasurable moment. Because we don't use the word or talk about pleasure enough, I feel, in the community, right? In the music community, whatever. That pleasurable side, what? I could talk about it. Oh
Touch
my
me,
God.
tease me, please me,
which-
tease me.
Ew,
Never wanna let you go.
Because the thing is, like, when you're writing these songs, how many thoughts or how many actions have taken place in order for that to come out?
Right.
That's what makes Mary J. who she is. Because I don't care. No more pain.
It's redemption.
It's empowering. So yeah.
But know what it reminds me of? The good girl gone bad concept, what I call it. Where I had a young lady I was friends with, she was telling me about this guy, and she was like, you know what, he ain't gonna be satisfied time a good girl gone bad. I'm like, hold up. Like Nepsi Phipps always say, feeling played is a choice. So you have a choice to either go bad or learn from this. Now if you go bad from this and just let this turn you out your character and hurt other people and hurt yourself, you can't fault this man.
Because you were never in control.
Right. Now you giving this person control over your actions and over your mental.
Yeah.
So that's my whole take on that. You just got it's a choice at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
It is.
It's a major choice, and you just have to decide.
I think that's what made me such a chauvinist on this topic.
Right.
You know, because it is a choice, and as a man, it's quite simple. In what's the word? You know, isn't in theory. In theory, it's just a very simple thing. If I'm being abused, if I'm being, downtrodden, if I'm doing this, that, and the other, I got one or two options.
Stay here or leave.
Stay or leave.
But that's why I said, that's why when you said it made you more chauvinistic, I'm like, looking at it from a female's perspective, I'm the same way. Because this girl recently posted on social media, she said something like, I tried to have a good boy. I tried such and such,
Right.
and with a good guy, but that D boy calling me. I don't care how bad he is, that D boy calling me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Like with guys, I tried to have a good girl. Oh, but the bad girl calling me. It's what your choice is. Like It goes back to it. You have a choice of what it is that you want. Whatever the side effects of it are,
Right.
don't tell me about it,
If you
because
understand the consequences,
you already knew.
go ahead and make the choice.
You already knew. So
That's my whole thing. So
you have a choice.
yes. All right, I'm making this the last subject because I don't want to take up most of your time, and because I enjoy our discussions and debates. That's why I wanted you on this podcast.
Yeah.
You are a proud resident of the Lower Ninth Ward.
All day, 5+4, Lower 9, CTC.
As I am, a proud, proud to say that I came from, the affluent Punch Train Park.
Absolutely.
One of the things that makes us proud is that we have a very detailed history as to what they represent, what those neighborhoods represent, especially being black folk, and knowing that this was a space where black folk, especially, weren't. Well, these were the first developments where they were able to just do for themselves in the city. But as I see with each generation, that pride and that that meaningful history that we are a part of kind of dwindles away, for the sake of more affluent, places to live, places to be, which is more than likely white.
Or what's considered
white. And so my thing is, like, in order for us to reach back and get to a level of where we have that same equity in our lives, we have to go back to the thinking of our grandparents, our great grandparents, and understand that where we stay is where it's at.
Yeah.
You know, as you, and like I said, I think we both have just very proud thing about ourselves, just because we come from it.
Yeah.
You know, you've been in, you've lived, you know, you're pretty much the majority of your life in black neighborhoods where everybody's proud of living there, you know, and people are very proud of the home that they bought, and they take care of it, and it can be, you know, and it's passed down. At least one generation, at least one good generation, where it's passed down, and you know, and I think from there the pride in it. I think once you get to that second, third generation passed down, or just, you know, understanding of what it is, I think they just have a different view. Maybe it's just because the world is changing. I don't want to believe that.
Well, sometimes I don't mean to cut you off because I wanted to jump on. So I feel like sometimes the core values are not instilled. I'm from the Lower Ninth Ward. I moved to New Orleans over 30 years ago, and we lived in the East. Black community.
Black community, yeah.
We left the East. Well, we lived. When I left the East, I moved to the Lower Ninth Ward. That's all I know.
Right.
Katrina hit. We were in Chalmette for a little bit. Back in the Lower Ninth Ward. It's all I know. Bought my first home in the Lower Ninth Ward. Still living in my home, and won't sell my home, you know, because that's my land. It's my foundation. It's not just for me, but for my children. And now that I'm the board president for the Lower Nine Homeowners Association, our goal is to make sure that people understand the richness of the Lower Nine. The Lower Nine is an affluent, beautiful, wholesome community that was, I still say to this day, forgotten after Katrina, because we're still in the process of trying to bring the community back. We don't have a grocery store. We don't have a pharmacy. We don't have what you would see in other communities surrounding our areas, but you have to go through our area to get to those communities.
Right.
We're forgotten about.
I had that conversation with Wendell Pierce about the very same thing.
Yeah, we're forgotten about. And so when I bark and I say CTC all day, Lower Ninth Ward, you coming through our community speeding to get to a different community when all you need to do is follow the rules. Right. But you want us to follow them in your communities. Right. So I try my best to encourage people that it's not what you do, is how you do it. Get it done. Because you could talk about it, but are you doing it? Right. You can say this community is this, but you don't know anything about the Lower Nine until you come down there. Yeah. And I can stand on my porch. We've left our doors open in this like, and I'm saying in this time, and nothing has happened. Right. Because the cousins on one side, auntie on the other, across the street is your cousin, your grandmama and them. It's all of that. And that's what's currently in the Lower Ninth Ward today. It's grandmama right there. It's cousins across the street. So everybody is neighborhood watch. While we're right now struggling with police protection in the city of New Orleans being very low, which I hope we can find a solution to that, we had to become the police of the communities to today in 2021, right? To protect our community. So it's rich with history. I'm talking about the next time you sing every year at carnival time, think about the Lower Ninth Ward, because Baba Big Al was down there. You know what I'm saying? Or if you sing I'm walking to New Orleans, Baba Fats Domino is from down there. Or even if you're talking about Kermit Ruffin, he out the Ninth Ward. So if we're gonna talk about the history, let's talk about the rich history of our community. So I'm gonna say that loud and I'm gonna say it proud. I'm black and I'm proud.
And not the reputation that you know precedes it.
And here's another thing: if we're so bad, stop making movies about our community.
Right. All right, we got.
Right. I'm just gonna put a spade on it.
I watched that movie. I was like,
I can't.
I ain't watched it yet. I'm gonna watch it tonight while I'm at work.
Because here's the thing: you can't depict our communities. That's just like, and it's not just for the Lower Ninth Ward. I'm saying in general, if you're coming to New Orleans and you're filming about New Orleans, put the dollars back in the communities that you are representing on your movies. Yeah. because we've yet to see any of those dollars. We don't want to hear another fucking thing about Katrina. We done been through that shit. We live that shit every day. It's trauma every August 29th leading up to it. We live it. So all I'm saying is, if we're gonna talk about it, be about it. And I feel I'm passionate about my community. I'm passionate about the city of New Orleans. And when it comes to New Orleans, we have to really protect her because she is rich. She is valuable. And if we don't do it, then we can't get mad at somebody coming in perpetrating.
Especially when you're talking about gentrification. And
Absolutely.
that's my biggest thing. My biggest thing is that, and I don't necessarily have a problem with gentrification, you know, in its principle theory, in its principle by principle definition. I have that one by, you know, I have a problem. I don't have a problem with necessarily with a walking path being on neutral ground on Claiborne, you know, in the lower ninth ward. I have a problem, but I do have a problem with that path on Claiborne because I already know who that's for.
Right, it's not for us.
You know, it wasn't necessarily built for us. It was for, you know, for us to partake in that. It was for the ones that were buying up Holy Cross, you know, in that area over there to take advantage of that, you know. And you see them in the mornings now, you know, like walking their dogs, you know, that type of thing. And like I said, that part I don't have a problem with. Is the other part is like, you don't even understand the rich history. You just know that this was a prominent historic black neighborhood, and that's why you want to move here.
Well, see, here's the thing. A small little tale, even with that path, that path wasn't even put there for that. The path was there to say we did something 10 years later. Right. And now the CVS that they put there is no longer there. No longer there. Yeah. Because you put a community store, you put a store of, a corporate store in a community with prices that are exceeding the incomes of some of the families down there to be able to afford what's in there. Right. So let's go there. When you put that trail there, you put it there just to say, I put this here. Now y'all can say we did something 10 years later. Right. But you didn't do it. You didn't do it. Right. You didn't do it for the right reason. Because if you would have, you stopped once you crossed Catherine.
Right.
You would have went all the way down to work before Jackson Barracks if you really meant to put it there for a good reason.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just, again, don't half-ass something just to make me feel good because I see your bullshit.
Right.
So if we're going to really call a spade, and I call on every city official when it comes to my community. I'm giving them a little break right now. But see, when I'm blowing up their phones saying, y'all didn't do this, don't come down here just to get photo ops. Right. If you're going to be about the community, be about the community. Start with the children first. And that's all I got to say.
Start with the children.
5 + 4, and what do you get? Come down there.
Yes, indeed. All right. I'd like to thank my sister, Tonya Boyd Cannon, for coming and gracing us with her perspective because this is exactly what this podcast is about. Dissenting opinions, barbershop banter, philosophical ideas, and maybe just maybe, you know, through the grace of God, you know, some of these things can be enacted and some of these can be proactive in the betterment of society.
Absolutely.
Right. So thank you, Tonya, for coming because
thank you for having me.
I know you're very what's the word?
Passionate.
Passionate. Yes, I know I'm passionate. But I know you're very selective in you know who you talk to because I understand.
Thank you.
I understand we need to find a way to control our conversation as much as we can. My boy Al Hamer of the podcast.
Yo.
Irv Darby.
Yes, sir.
Drew Bayham. Until next time, peace.
Peace.